Hey everybody, it's Tyler. Just checking in with you because I wanted to remind you that when you make a podcast, sometimes you run into difficulties. Sometimes those difficulties are spiritual, other times they're interpersonal, but more often than not, and in the case of this week's episode, they were purely technical. And thusly, the very first part of the episode got cut off just a little bit. And so in an effort to remind you about what you missed, I'll tell you that you have found yourself absorbing, attending yet another episode of This One Goes to 11. It's the podcast that my buddy Michael Osinski and I host, and each week we invite someone into our virtual living room to make their case for what they believe is a perfect album.
So perfect. The 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
Beautiful day here in St. Louis, Missouri. I hope that you're having a similarly mild day on the Philly side. Are you, Michael?
Yeah, I would call it mild.
Well,
I find mild is a funny word, though, when you're thinking about when you're talking about like weather, like it
yeah.
can mean one thing. When you're talking about like spice level, it
Uh-huh.
means something else. Like I feel like mild is one of those terms. It's like whenever my students would call something normal, they'd
Yeah.
write something in a paper and say normal. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't know what normal
Right.
means. Normal
Right.
implies it's relative to something else. You have to give me the relativity scale.
Gabor Mate, isn't that The Myth of Normal? Is that book?
What?
Yeah, I think that's a Gabor Mate book.
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Can be on our philosophy podcast, but I feel like Gabor Mate potentially is problematic. I don't know. We'll revisit that. Okay, so season 10, Michael, what are we doing for season 10? What's our whole thing?
In case you haven't figured it out yet, the guests have been on before, but they have to nominate an album that came out before they were born. So this is the conceit of season 10.
Turning back the clock a bit in more ways than one, I guess you could say. It's our turning back the clock season.
I wish we'd come up with that and designed an appropriate logo for this.
Wouldn't that have been nice? I know. Anyway, so the person we're talking to today, you've met before if you're a keen listener of the podcast, and we're really excited to have him back from literally the other side of the globe. It's Joe Rivers.
Hello. How are you guys?
Welcome back, buddy. We're good. Well, we're as good as can be expected in the hellscape that is America in 2026.
Yeah. It's also mild here, in case you're wondering, but that translates to 70 degrees.
Right, late summer, right?
Oh,
kind of what we're.
You said 7. Yeah. Wait, did they use Fahrenheit in Australia?
No. I was
translating
for an international audience. I was translating exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Why we like you, Joe?
That is why we like you. How are things down under? You hanging in?
Yeah, things are okay. I'm trying to think what the main news has been since I was last on. And I think it's I tore my ACL. That was fun.
Yes.
So I've had surgery for that. So there was a lot of sitting around last year.
Yeah.
And
how did you go through that mentally? Was that a struggle, like a mental struggle?
The week after the surgery was one of my favorite weeks in a long time. I had to sit around not really doing anything. I watched a lot of TV. I read a lot of books. I was on some pretty strong painkillers. I'd recommend it as a kind of self-care holiday vacation kind of thing.
A reset.
It's a real application of any responsibility. I think in a world of side hustles and constant pressure, everyone thinks that they should be doing something all the time, and I think a lot of people, me included, find it difficult to relax and switch off, and this was a real giving yourself permission to do absolutely nothing, because I couldn't. I'd recommend it apart from the incredible pain and surgery and
well, there's that,
and all that kind of stuff. Yes,
and you're moving again now. You're like, I saw you on Strava. You got a few runs in recently.
Yeah. The surgery was 9 months ago, so I'm pretty much back to normal. Yeah,
that's great, dude. Good for you. Glad you came out of the other side in decent shape.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but
fair enough. Well, we're excited to have you back. Our conversation about Sophie back a few years ago now was just one of our most fun. Kind of went down a whole lot of pathways that I think hyperpop is just even more in the lexicon now. So for me, it was kind of the beginning of an understanding of something that was happening in music. And to refresh our listeners' memory, you're a writer yourself, a deep lover of music. You write about music and have done that extensively. So we're excited to tap that expertise again. So why don't we, without further ado,
Okay,
why don't
no
you
pressure.
tell us what album hath thou brought for your second appearance before This One Goes to 11 Tribunal today?
I hath brought Say Chic by Chic.
And they let you know that it is Chic.
Yeah.
They do. They do. It is mentioned once or twice.
Once or twice.
I was actually considering when the first track was going, and so like 2 minutes in, I was like, should I count these? I should count these to see how. But I didn't, because I was like, then I'm getting too analytical, and I should let this whole thing wash over me. I didn't know that this was the band that had the song, and I also didn't know that one of the members of this band was who it was. I'm purposely dangling the carrot for our listeners here, because Joe, I don't know if you recall, but at the beginning of every episode we have a segment that some people call everybody's favorite segment. That person is Tyler, who says that. Tyler, what is this segment called?
That segment is called The Beginner's Guide to Say Chic by Chic in 60 seconds. The little chance that we get to catch our listeners up on who this band or artist is, a little bit of context about the album in case they don't know, and you also get to assess how Michael does with this intro today. Do you feel like you have your assessor hat on?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
You can't see it, but I definitely do. I definitely do. It's weighing me down, if anything.
heavy lies the head that wears the crown, as they say.
Exactly.
The assessor crown, yes.
Michael, do you feel prepared for this today?
I guess so. A surprisingly little amount of information about them, which I have some theories about why that might be the case. Well, I have two theories why that might be the case, and they both might be accurate, but maybe we'll get into that later. But yes, what I'm saying is I'm ready.
Okay. Great. Well, Joe, listen carefully. This is your chance to assess how Michael does. And we're going to start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Get down, all you studs and foxes. Can you dig it? We're talking about Chic, founded in 1972 by session musicians Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards. Inspired by Roxy Music and Kiss, and originally called the Big Apple Band, the two sought to create a rock band for the disco movement. So they got themselves a drummer and a keyboardist and a pretty lady who could sing. Well, eventually two pretty ladies, because they thought it would be better for the sound and look of the band. They first broke with their single Dance, 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 parentheses, Yowza, 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 in 1977. But it was their second album, 1978's Say Chic, that made them huge. Mostly because of the iconic hit La Freak, a song written about their failed meeting with Grace Jones at Studio 54 on New Year's Eve in 1977, which went on to hit #1, sell 6 million copies, and get selected for preservation by the Library of Congress. Like all bands of the era, they would fall victim to the backlash against disco, but not before producing iconic hits for Sister Sledge, providing one of the all-time most sampled tracks, Good Times. Most recently, Nile Rodgers has been honored for his work with Daft Punk and Beyonce. Still, the band has never made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, despite being nominated a record 11 times.
We'll count it.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll count it.
Rounding error.
Exactly, rounding error.
Well, also the distance, because we're talking to him in Australia, so like there's probably there's a lag.
It's a different month here.
It is right now, actually.
It is.
Yeah.
Well done, Michael.
Yeah.
So Joe, how did he do? How would you assess his job summarizing Chic in 60 seconds?
I think great. I think the only apt response is that I would like to award you a shimmering disco ball for your efforts.
Perfect. I will take it.
Perfect.
Take it.
Yeah.
All theater people should own one, and so I should own one.
that just makes good sense.
Yeah.
They're very practical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You never all the uses for a disco ball. You would be amazed.
Well, Joe, before we hit the disco floor, we got to catch up with you musically speaking. We're wondering, since the last time we talked to you, like how are you listening to music these days? Has it changed? They're like, have you completely changed your taste? Are you listening to like only 45s on vinyl? Like what's music doing for you these days?
So when I was last on the pod, I was talking about a Substack that I just started that was kind of going through my life story in number ones, and I mentioned that I was terrible at following through with things, and there was every chance that this would completely fall by the wayside. And sadly and predictably, that is kind of what has happened. There are very few entries on said Substack, but I think it did kind of start me down a quite nostalgic path. Because I was going back to kind of yeah, some of the tracks of my childhood. And then last year in 2025, I kind of felt that new music wasn't kind of grabbing me quite so much. I don't know whether it was it probably was a me problem rather than a music problem. I think decision fatigue, choice overwhelm, all these kind of things feed into it. I found that I was getting recommended a lot of things, but I was listening to them once and kind of going, yeah, solid 7 out of 10, and then never really thinking about it
Joe, it
again.
also might be your age. Like
I
as the
did
oldest
want to.
as the oldest person on this podcast right now, I can tell you it might be that as well.
Well, yeah, there's so I don't. I'm trying to think. I can't remember the exact study, but there has been at least one scientific study that says you I don't know, not regress, but almost stop keeping up with new music trends and so on
Yeah.
around the age of about 32 or 33. And I'm certainly past that. And I thought I was immune. I thought I'd kind of come through the other side, and I was the exception. And
Right.
I think maybe that isn't the case. And so that was, yeah, that kind of started me off on a fairly nostalgic trip. And then in around October last year, the entirety of Australia went Oasis crazy. Oasis
Mhm.
came and
Mhm.
their world tour kind of rocked up on these shores.
Yeah.
And I didn't go. I've never actually been a huge Oasis fan, but I am a big fan of Britpop and a lot of the music from that era.
Right.
And it just kind of made me dig back into that quite a lot. And then earlier this year, I decided, I can't even remember why now, that I was going to make, because I'm a bit of a, I think I mentioned this last time as well. I'm very much into numbers and statistics and trivia,
Yeah.
stereotypical boy things, unfortunately. And like growing up in the UK, I loved the top 40, watching Top of the
Mm.
Pops, which was a weekly show with live performances from groups and artists that were in the charts at that time. And I decided I was going to make playlists for my favorite top 40 hits of every year of my life.
Mm.
And I've done that this year, put them all in one big playlist, and now I have a playlist of around 1,000 songs, which is basically every top 40 song that I've liked over the last. Well, I think you mentioned about the age thing, Michael. I'm a few months away from turning 40, and I think that's the kind of thing that's
Yeah.
potentially precipitated a lot of this. And so yeah, I've I'm doing musical comfort blanket stuff, I think, at the
Yeah.
moment, rather than keeping up with what's good and on the cutting edge. And my my friends that I know through writing and podcasting and stuff would maybe be absolutely horrified to hear that. And my new music recommendations do often come from them. I know you've had Gabby on this podcast before,
Yeah.
who does the new Bands for Old Head Substack, which is really, really great, and I'd
It is.
recommend to anyone. And most of my recommendations do come from that. And I feel quite disloyal to say that I've completely regressed. I don't know. This might turn into a therapy session if I continue too
I
much
don't
on
know.
it.
I
But I
mean,
think
yeah.
that's musical
It
habits
makes
now.
perfect sense. This is your, your the cycle. I kind of view it as cycles, because you're clearly somebody who like has the ability to interface with new music and like look at it through a pure
Mm,
lens and try to, look at it on its merit and its context and all that kind of thing, which I think is I think it's an energy thing more than anything. Like your energy shifts. The
mm.
I'm a few years younger than you, and I can already start to feel the energy shifts in my attention and all the different things that are pulling our attention. Like we said, the decision fatigue, I think, is a very real reason to kind of not want to go out and seek novelty all the time when you're outside of your toil, whatever your chosen toil is. Um, it's too much. There's too much
Well,
tuna, as they say.
there's too much there is too much going on, and also this is potentially boomer sounding thing to say, but I think as well, because music trends tend to be cyclical, there is a
Mhm.
thing of when you hear the hot new thing that's going on, there is now an aspect of, well, I was here last time for this. I've
Right,
kind of heard this before. There's only so much you can do within this sort of sphere,
right.
if you like, and I don't know if it's some kind of recession indicator or something, but I feel like when I do hear a lot of the newer pop, what would probably be classified as pop music, it just doesn't seem particularly exciting. You know,
Mhm.
I take someone like Harry Styles, who I'm sure is very, very nice, and
He seems like a nice young
his
man.
he does seem like a nice young man. You would take him home. Your parents would be
They love
would be
him. Oh my
they
god.
would I think he would definitely at the end of the meal he would be like, no, I'll do the washing up, or at
Yeah.
least he'd dry, he'd grab a
Yeah.
tea towel, he'd muck him, yeah.
Easy. Yeah. You wouldn't need to be
Yeah,
asked. Wouldn't need to be asked or
exactly,
offered.
exactly.
Or offered. Yeah, he'd just do it.
Yeah, he would just insist, yes.
Mhm.
And
Too true.
his music is pleasant, I
It
think.
is.
There's not yeah, and I think there's a lot of that. But yeah, again, this is definitely a boomer complaint.
To take that idea even a little bit further, I think he's very talented. I think he's a super
Yeah.
talented guy, but the music that he makes is pleasant, which is different.
Mm,
You know, like a lot of
yes.
times I think those two things get combined, but they really are kind of separate.
Yeah, very much.
Well,
Yeah.
is he writing his own stuff or no?
Probably at least in part.
'Cause I actually
Ooh,
don't
yeah.
know that. I'm not sure. Like, because I feel like there are still some pop artists out there who are like, or is he writing it in the sense that he's like, he puts his name on it because at one point he walked by and said, "Hey, why don't you kick that one thing up a notch?" You know what I mean?
I don't
Like,
know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. Yeah, no.
I'm gonna use
Yeah.
my dangerous rectangle to try and find out.
You can use your dangerous rectangle for that. Okay, but while you're doing that, two things. One, we'll get on to talking about say Chic in just one second. But I want to talk about another thing that you brought up. There's the Britpop thing, and your
Mm,
one thing that did happen between the last time we saw you and now is that Pulp had an album come out, and it was pretty good.
yes. It was. Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
and you saw them,
Yes.
right? Like you saw them live,
I
I think.
saw them I saw them at oh, was that before I spoke to you last time or after? I can't remember. It was that year though.
Yeah,
So I saw
maybe it was
them
after,
at
but I'm not sure. Yeah,
yeah, I saw them at Primavera in Barcelona in 2024.
yeah.
So that was when
Okay,
I spoke to you, I think, that year. But that was before any new music from them was
right.
kind of on the horizon. So
Thought that.
what I saw was a bit of a greatest hits, or kind of what
Sure.
they'd probably been touring at that point for the last few years.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Pulp album did come out last year, and that was so I think. Oh, am I going to say this bold statement? I think Pulp's mid 90s run of albums, his and hers, different class, and this is hardcore, is maybe my favorite kind of 3 album run
I think you
in
said that on the
music.
first show.
Oh, did
I
I?
don't. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
okay.
You did say that the Pulp album was like one of them was your absolute favorite. Like,
which
Yes,
is
different
great.
class, but
gun
Pulp.
to your head. You
Yes.
said yes.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Mm-mm.
Am I to understand that you did see Oasis then? Like you did?
No, no, I didn't.
You
No,
didn't?
no, no.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
not. Yeah, that they've
That's
been
kind of how I
those
thought you
kind
were
of
saying it was that you Australia went Oasis crazy and you participated
mm,
in the Oasis craze because that's what I understood. Okay, so thank you for the distinction. That's important.
yeah. I kind of made me dig into other bands from that
Okay,
era that I used to love and haven't really kind of
gotcha.
revisited for a while. But yeah, the Pulp album that came out last year was I did enjoy it. It was good, but
That
it
was good.
was
Yeah,
yeah, it didn't quite capture
sure.
previous glories to me. But again, that might be an age thing
Yeah,
on both my part and theirs. I think
yeah,
for a band that hadn't made an album for about 25 years, it was much better than
yeah.
anything else I can think of where a band haven't made a record for 25 years.
It's an obscenely long gap. Like it's a crazy.
It is. It is.
That's a
Yeah.
crazy
Mm,
because we were just talking
mm.
about how, we haven't had a nice little Radiohead gap in a while here on the pod, but it seems like there could be a new Radiohead album on the horizon, and
Ah, is that true? Mm.
yeah, and I think that when I think it's because it's been it'll be 8, 9 years since the last one. Was it 2018, Michael? Is that what it was?
I don't. I might be. It's getting very close to 10. Is what I
Okay.
will say.
Yeah. And so it's just interesting because you're like, that's actually not that long of a gap compared to Pulp's gap. It's amazing to think about coming back after that long away from doing something at that level and then just do it again. Uh,
Yeah.
I kind of
And
admire it.
yeah, definitely. And perception and kind of how the esteem artists are held in changes quite a lot as well. Because I remember when Pulp didn't even really break up. They just kind of faded away, really,
Mm.
because their last album in 2001 was, didn't sell great. They released a best of that didn't really do anything, and I think kind of Britpop had completely imploded by that point
Sure.
in mountains of cocaine, I think, generally. And sorry,
What a way to go.
citation needed. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were kind of particularly missed at the time, and then with benefit of hindsight, I guess people rediscovered and loved them again.
Yeah.
Although you talking about big gaps between albums did make me think that the other thing that's happened that has shaped my listening quite a lot since I last spoke to you guys is D'Angelo died in
Yes.
October, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And talking of somebody with long gaps between albums, and
He did it, though.
and that but and that basically sent me on a tip of I listened to basically almost nothing but him for about a month after that.
Because you can do that. It's so rich. There's so much going on there.
Yeah, and I will just hoover up any YouTube video, podcast, anything that's kind of it purports to offer any additional insight into anything like that. And
my algo was all D'Angelo for a little while.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yes,
it was a good time in the online.
Yeah. Before we proceed, just want to clarify: Harry Styles has written most of his tracks,
Great,
but they're never solo. There's always at least two other people on the track, sometimes more than that. So
good on him.
I stand corrected.
Still a nice young man.
He is. I was going to say, if you are on dishwashing duties, does that count as a co-writing credit? I wonder if he's just kind of taking the mugs, making the tea, bringing it back.
Well, it's his show though, because he made such a good impression coming into the house and being that intentional and that that sweet. So really, whoever was doing the dishes with him, it doesn't even matter who it was because it was Harry's show then.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Enough of that. So let's talk about Chic. When did you discover it? How did you discover it? How did you come to love this album?
So this is obviously, as you said, the album with the Freak on. So everybody knows that it's, what do you say? It's in the Library of Congress or
it's been preserved. It's like representative of a time and everything.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I know that kind of broke chart records at the time. It was something like the record label's biggest selling single until Vogue, I think.
Yeah,
is the other thing I saw about that.
Almost almost 12 years or something passed before something sold as much as this track did.
Right.
Yeah. So I couldn't tell you when I first heard Chic because I think that's part of the culture, right? That's just like
it is,
that's like a set text. I think the first time I really kind of fell for disco music though. So I have a cousin, not the one that you know, not Matt Risby. I have another cousin, actually on the other side of my family. So Matt does not know this cousin, who is a professional musician. He's a jazz drummer. And now
we're going to get the other side of your family tree then, Joe. We're just going to keep going zigzagging up and down this family tree.
Yeah. If I just share screen right now, I'll just bring up a diagram. And when I think I must have been around 17 or 18 when he got married, and I went to his wedding, and he studied music at university. His wife is a musician as well and is now a music teacher. So it's the only wedding I've been to and probably will ever go to where the bride and groom are part of their own wedding band. They didn't hire a band. They were I know, and they were literally like inviting people on to say, hey, I've got a bass guitar in the car. Do you want to just come up? And it's that kind of thing.
Oh my God, incredible!
But what they played a lot of was disco music, and so they played "The Freak," "Off the Wall" by Michael Jackson, "Boogie Oogie Oogie" by Taste of Honey, which is I don't know a song that but it's just like a kind of very
sounds great.
Disco, yeah.
I like the sound of it.
It's real sort of disco crowd pleasers and things. And I think that kind of kicked off a thing. I don't know if I've said this to you guys before, but one of my long held beliefs, I refuse to trust anyone who says they don't like disco music. I think it's a real kind of bellwether for a person's character. I think it's there's the thing of you can tell a lot about a person by whether they return a shopping cart after they're done shopping, because it is an, I won't say altruistic, but it's an act that has no benefit to you,
Right.
but it benefits other people only, and
Yes.
you have to go out of your way to do it. So I'm going to try and bring this back to Chic.
Go for it. I feel it. You're gonna stick the landing here. I can feel it.
Yeah, because with disco, it is seen as a bit of a throwaway genre, which I don't agree with, but we'll probably come to. But because it is something which prioritizes joy and fun and dancing, but has also never, it's not been, or not for a long time at least, been kind of critically acclaimed. I think if you don't like disco music, you are, and I'm going to make some huge generalizations, you're either you take yourself a bit too seriously, you kind of can't let go, you aren't comfortable and secure enough in yourself to like something which isn't cool, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous to say, because obviously Chic are incredibly cool. It's ridiculous.
Chic are outstandingly cool. Yeah,
which is
they're very cool.
Which is very much by design. Yeah,
but we're going to come to that too. Yeah.
And also because it is a form of music which is predominantly by black artists. There's a lot of crossover with the gay scene as well. I think as well, if you're not prepared to like music which kind of does overlaps with those things, that kind of potentially says a lot about a person as well.
That's true.
You've hit on the three reasons why I thought it might be hard to find information about Chic, like the fact, like race, genre, and sexuality.
Yeah.
I mean, even though like Nile Rodgers, I don't know if any of the members of Chic were or are not heterosexual, but you're right, like there was an appeal for the gay community in the 70s with disco music, and that sort of like went with it.
And also I guess a lot of what I just said is born out of knowing a little bit, although this is another thing that if I see a YouTube video or hear anything about, I will go for a deep dive and disappear down a rabbit hole, because I find it really fascinating. But the disco sucks movement, and particularly the I can't think what they call it, but the baseball game. You're the baseball guy, Tyler.
The night the disco died. Yeah,
where it was bring some disco records and we'll set them on fire in the middle of the and that overlap with that kind of music and the culture around that, and professional sports, which is less so these days, but generally a very male heterosexual
big time notably
thing. Yes, notably, famously.
The reaction to it makes it richer in that way, like that there is such a strong reaction to people being like very against disco. That's kind of why I think that this revival has happened a little bit over the last few years. I talk about this all the time, but our I say that for Michael because Michael's probably heard me tell this anecdote 6 or 7 times. But our buddy Wes, who is in the band Post Animal and tours with our former classmate Joe Keery, he, I guess, on tour in Australia had kind of seen the beginnings of this disco thing that would come out, the kind of parcels and what Tame Impala sort of had done up until the most recent album, that kind of disco inflected thing that has happened. And I think it's a reclamation of the uncool of disco is how I've read it over the last few years. I don't know if either of you would agree with that.
Well, and also, like, I mean, Kylie Minogue during the pandemic released an album called Disco, if I'm not mistaken, which was mostly, almost entirely, disco.
Another Aussie.
And of course, Beyonce's Renaissance, like with a track produced by Nile Rodgers, which Cuff It was produced by him.
God,
and there's a lot of disco on that album as well. So.
Cuff It makes me angry how good it is. That song is incredible. Oh, just thinking about
it's very good. It's very good.
Yeah. Parcels is an interesting one. So actually the last gig I went to was Parcels. And I don't know if you've ever seen, they do a thing. I think the most famous example of this might be Crowded House, but they do a thing sometimes in Sydney where they'll do a show on the Opera House steps. So they set up a temporary stage and you've got the Opera House behind you, and you're kind of on the concourse, and then there's a stage there, and it's really incredible. But
especially for an Aussie artist, that has to be pretty special thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they were talking about that. And the thing with Parcels that is interesting, you say they're disco, but they are very well. They're certainly not black, and they are also very much from a quite privileged background as well.
Sure.
So so they're from a place in Australia called Byron Bay, which you may have heard of, and it's very, very nice. And I think it's the most expensive place to live in. It's a very kind of sort of quite hippie-ish place. I think it might have also have had the lowest COVID vaccination rates in Australia as well.
Yeah.
Which
you're not really selling it for me here.
No. There's another discussion to be had about just the music industry generally, and how it's not exactly the kind of thing that anyone can just kind of drop into. And actually, that does. I'm going to bring this back now to Pulp, because Pulp were a going concern for about 10, 15 years before they had any success, and they could kind of afford to do that by getting on, like, what's it called? Sorry, it's not called this in Australia. The dole in the UK.
Yeah.
So yes, so unemployment benefit, and
and that's what old heads call it here.
The dole.
people are in our age bracket don't usually call it the dole. In the US, typically it's like some weird dude in his 60s is kind of the demographic for that.
Yeah.
Well, we should maybe, talk about specific tracks on here, on this album, most specifically your standout track. So, Joe, tell us, what's your standout track from C'est Chic?
Well, I thought about this because actually one of the things with this record is my standout actually has changed a few times over the years.
Okay.
And the obvious answer would be Le Freak, because we said that's kind of imprinted in everyone's DNA. But I think actually I would say my standout track is I Want Your Love.
So if you're on YouTube, you're going to be able to listen to I Want Your Love. If you're not on YouTube already, you should be listening to or watching our episodes on YouTube, because it's the best way to do it. So go listen to I Want Your Love, and then we'll see you on the other side.